So sometimes I find it hard to really capture what the Kalisa does in quite a succinct way. Could you describe the work of Kalisa in maybe 30 seconds?
A little challenge, Dami. Okay, so Kalisa support young people who've experienced multiple traumas and who are struggling to engage with education. And we support those young people by providing a programme that's a mix of creative arts therapies and the neurosequential model. What is that? Well, right. I can tell you.
Please do.
And support their parents and carers and the teachers around them. And the whole idea is that we support them to build their social emotional skills and their well-being, and also those educational outcomes like attendance and engagement.
Yeah. Great.
Was that 30 seconds?
Yes.
I'm out of breath.
I didn't time it, but I think it was. So can you describe or explain what neurosequential?
Yeah, so neurosequential model is essentially the theory to support someone to regulate, which is like obviously understanding your body sensations to help you feel calmer, and then to build a relationship, so to relate, before you can then get to the stage of reason where you can learn. And the idea is that the young people that we're supporting, because of their traumatic histories, find it really hard to regulate and relate. And as a result, that really disrupts their learning and their ability to reason. So our programme supports them to regulate and relate so they can then get to reason. But we also need to support their parents and carers and their teachers to go through that process too, and to also understand the impact of trauma on the brain and the body. So the neurosequential model is really powerful, but then so is using the creative arts therapies, because if you've experienced multiple traumas, it can be really difficult to speak about them. So it helps us to do that from one step removed.
Okay, no, that's really helpful. How do you explain that to someone who maybe hasn't worked in the voluntary sector or the education or sort of therapeutic sector, maybe a funder who doesn't know the first thing about those things? How do you explain them?
Yeah, I think they're really big terms, but at the end of the day, we all know exactly what it feels like to be nervous.
Yeah.
You got sweaty palms, or for example, your heart might be going really fast and you might be really distracted by things like that.
Yeah.
And so it's about saying young people who've experienced multiple traumas might be feeling that every single day, and they're always ready because of what they've experienced. So a teacher might say something to them and they might interpret it in a different way. They've already got those sweaty palms, but for them their response is to maybe chuck a chair or to show an external behaviour. And so we all know what it feels like when you're on the edge and someone just pushes you a little bit more, but it's saying what does that feel like every day for these young people? So they're complex terms, but we also all know what they feel like a little bit. And then we talk about creative arts therapies, but everyone knows how special it can be when you go to the theatre or when you sing a song or when you dance, the feeling to kind of let loose a little bit, and how it can kind of help you step away from the deep stuff that might be going on for you at that time. And creative arts therapies are very similar to that. It gives young people an outlet and helps them express what they might be feeling, but also helps them really unpick some really deep, dark things that have been going on for them in a way that provides a bit of space.
I mean, I had the privilege actually of attending one of the programs last year, and I was there on the last day, and by that point it was almost like young people had formed relationships and they felt quite comfortable talking openly about their issues and challenges. What does the first day of a program sort of normally look like with young people?
Not like that. I'll definitely say. I think it's loads of different things. I mean, there's a lot of nervousness, but nervousness comes through in different ways for different people. Some people might withdraw, so they might be very quiet. Other young people might be really kind of parading around, showing bravado, for example. And actually part of the programme is really breaking that down and, for example, using an activity, breaking down what's going on beneath that mask for all of those young people, and building relationships and building empathy and helping them understand that those two young people, one who might be really withdrawn and one who might be parading around, might actually be feeling quite similar. They're just showing it in different ways. So the first day can usually be quite chaotic. There's quite a lot of different things going on, and that's why the facilitators need to be really skilled in managing those therapeutic relationships. But as you go on the whole journey, you kind of go up and down, but you do that together. And I think that's what's really important. The first day, everyone's kind of coming in as an individual. And as you experience the last day, everyone is leaving as a collective who has gone on this kind of journey together, this journey of realisation.
And you talked about the different forms of sort of creative activities and what's going on. One of the things that struck me is the way that young people create a mask at the end of the sessions. It'd be really interesting to know why did they do that, and what were we trying to really get out of that?
Yeah, so there's this, I wish I knew it off by heart, but there's this really powerful poem at the end of the programme that we speak to about the mask that we all wear in the world. And I think it's about understanding that everyone wears a mask, but what's going on beneath that, and how important it is actually to share what's going on beneath with some people. And for young people, they do the mask activity, and part of it is during the mask that other people see, and part of it is about what's underneath that mask for them. And for some of the young people on our programme, this is the first time they've started to think about that. They know that they're presenting differently in school, for example, to how they might at home, but actually they're not thinking about why that is. and they're not also thinking about the fact that they don't have any support to then talk about what's going on beneath that mask. So we start talking about the feelings that they might be feeling. So for example, young people, and there's incredible photos that I'm sure that you've seen and other people have seen, where they've drawn maybe crying tears on one side of the mask. And it's like, what does that actually mean, and how does that actually come out for you? So I guess it's a form of expression, and it's a form of connecting to what's really going on. And we talk about the fact that we work with young people who've experienced multiple traumas and adversities. And actually, sometimes you just go into survival mode. And if you're in survival mode, you can't thrive. So the whole idea of this is that young people can start to realise they've been in survival mode, what that looks and feels like for them, and then how they can move forward and what support they might need for that, and then how they can thrive.
And I know the model's changed. I mean, when I went and really attended the program, it was a 6-week program, and I know it's extended and it's double that now. It'd be really interesting to know what you made us make that decision and what kind of impact you think it will have.
Yeah, so I think loads of it was about the young people on the programme you would have been on other programmes, really feeding back to us that they wanted a longer programme. Actually, they went on this journey of realisation with other young people, but there was no opportunity to then embed that one-to-one with a therapist or youth worker after the programme. And so what we wanted to do was to extend the programme so they had the opportunity and to listen to their feedback. But also for us as an organisation, when we're thinking about our new 3-year strategy, we're thinking about where are we doing really well, which was building those social emotional skills and well-being for young people, and how do we want to do more of that? So how do you want to make sure we're sustaining that a year after our programme? And how do you want to make sure that that's translating to educational outcomes like attendance and engagement? And so for us it was thinking, well, the way that we feel like we can achieve that is by having a longer programme, by having those one-to-one sessions with young people after the group aspect, but also by supporting their parents and carers and their teachers at the same time. So going back into an environment that is full of emotional literacy, where everyone has been on that journey together, and the onus isn't just on those young people, it's actually on a systemic change piece and the environment around them. So we extended the programme, we made some changes, and it's also we could drive forward that impact and have a deeper impact for those incredible young people who are literally coming through the programme and are like, wow, I've learned so much, and we're like, let's make sure that that can transfer into the rest of the world.
And I know that you've been CEO for about a year and a half.
Yeah, a year and a half. Yeah.
Really gone quickly. And you've really joined at the beginning of this sort of really great relationship with Impetus, and they've really supported the growth and the journey in terms of income diversification and working with different partners. What's that process sort of been like?
Yeah, and I think it's interesting. Obviously, I'm full of passion and really love all the therapeutic, creative aspects, but it also has to be grounded in reality. Like this is an incredible program for young people, but it's intensive, and we want to make sure that we can deliver it to as many young people as we can, but also that we can grow that year on year. And so part of our work with Impetus has been about a sustainable income model, making sure that we diversify so that we can build both our organisation and the delivery of our work, but also our organisational infrastructure. Because it is all about sustainability for us, sustainability for young people's outcomes, but also sustainability for us as an organisation, as a charity. And I know you as the Deputy Chair have been really involved as well, and the whole board around making sure that Kalisa can grow and grow as a really strong organisation. And Impetus have really supported us with that.
Amazing. And I mean, another thing that you've really mentioned a few times in our conversations is about really involving more young people in the process and amplifying their voices. What are the sort of the things that we've done over the last few years to really kind of demonstrate that?
Yeah, so I am so passionate about amplifying youth voice, and so is the whole organisation. I mean, we've got a team of therapists and youth workers, so many who have their own experiences of what we're talking about, as do I. And for us, it's really about helping young people share their story in their way, with their words, and making sure that they can choose who they're speaking to and how they're sharing and narrating that. And if you think about creative arts therapies, it's about spoken word, it's about poetry, it's about performance. And for them, it's about sharing it in that way if they feel comfortable to. But also it's about creating wider change, wider systemic change, helping the incredible impact data that we've got, making sure that that has a platform to then hopefully change policy, influence other areas, for example, where funding goes and so on. And it's about having young people at the centre of that. And so for us, that's bringing them into the organisation, providing platforms for them around like a young ambassadors group, bringing on board young trustees in the future, but also really helping them go into the spaces that we're going into so they can really amplify their own voice in their way.
So it sounds like we've got some big plans going forward. What does all this mean for the trustee board? What kind of person are we looking for to really lead the trustee board going forward?
Yeah, I think, it probably won't surprise you that one of the really important things we're looking for in a new chair is the fact that they care about impact, that they're data-driven, that they really want to make a difference for young people and for that to be informed by young people. Right. So 2 things there is impact, data-driven, and I've put those in one, because essentially we want someone who cares about the quality of impact. We see that moment with young people as a really special moment, and so for us, obviously we want to reach as many young people as we can, but actually we want to focus on the quality of that and be driven by the data. And then the second part is making sure that young people's voice is in that. So a chair who really believes in the power of amplifying youth voice. And then I'm just going to go on to the third part because it's really important, and hopefully I know that you've been really a part of this, but it's about collaboration and systemic change. And so for us, it's really important that we've got a chair that is passionate about that is able to connect us with other people, whether that's funders, partners, ways that we can really amplify what Kalisa is doing and share what we're doing, share that incredible data that we've got, provide a platform for those young people to share their experiences. And so we're looking for a chair that is passionate about similar things to what we are passionate about, but also a chair that really believes in the power of collaboration and also wants to be a key part of that. So it's about being an ambassador for the charity alongside yourself and me, and making sure that we're really raising our voice and kind of increasing our profile.
And you talked about how really there's been a growth in the programs in terms of the engagement with young people. So someone really coming in they really need to be in it for the longer run because they're working longer periods with young people trying to get those longer term impacts. Do you think that's fair to?
Yeah, I love that connection, Dami, because I think it's about, I talk so much about sustainability right now, and what we really want is a chair who is committed, but who can also sustain that commitment. And by that, I mean practically, obviously it's going to require time, it's a time commitment.
For sure.
And also we want them to be kind of out there with myself, sharing the work of Khulisa, and the hope is that that will grow over time as well. So I guess sustainability in terms of maintaining that commitment, maintaining that voice, but also really challenging us and holding us accountable. And that takes energy. So we want a chair who's got energy, who's able to come in and be like, this is amazing. We really believe in what you're doing and we believe in it for all these reasons. But actually, let's make sure that this is realistic. Let's make sure this is sustainable. And let's make sure we've got integrity in our approach. And we're continuously coming back to what's important for Kalisa. And what is important is impact and having young people at the centre of what we're doing.
And you talked about how in the wider organisation, the people who have in their own different ways lived experience in terms of the work that we do and the young people that we work with. Do you think that's an important thing for a chair to have when they come in, or is it more about just having a capacity to understand some of the challenges that the young people that we work with have?
Yeah, I think, so as you know, we are an organisation that has a lot of lived experience. I have lived experience as the CEO. And so it is really important that this chair comes into this organisation, either with lived experience or that they are, exactly as you said there, able to understand, relate and have empathy to it. There will be someone who's also overseeing me, and I want them to understand that it's incredible to be passionate and excited about things, but also to be able to relate to what might be going on when you're leading an organisation that does the type of work that you've been through as well. So that is important to have that relatability and that empathy towards that, but they don't necessarily need to have the experience themselves, and I think this is where we come to thinking about skills and expertise of a chair. And obviously the ideal is to have a chair who is involved in the education or the charity sector or the mental health sector, one of the areas that Kalisa works in, for example. But also I think experience is really variable. It could be that actually just someone who is a great collaborator, who really is passionate about impact, for example. So therefore they don't need to necessarily have what impact looks like in education. So these things can be standalone, or for example, they might have had their own experiences, or a close family member or friend has, or they might have grown up in the communities that Kalisa works in and serves. So I think I really want to encourage people to apply, even if they don't have all the set things, because I think we really limit ourselves sometimes, and sometimes those are the people that have the most to offer.
For sure. And you talked about some of the networks that we need to sort of grow in. What kind of areas would you think a new chair could really add value to with those networks?
Yeah, so I think Khulisa is absolutely brilliant and I love leading it, but I also don't have huge networks myself. And I think we've been quite internally focused while we've really thought about this new strategy. And that has strengths because it is really grounded in the foundation of theory of sustainability. But we really need to be more outward looking now, particularly if we're going to share our work and make more systemic change. So for a chair, we're looking for someone who's got more of those external networks and external voice, someone who can support you as the deputy chair as you're thinking more about the internal governance of the organisation and the operational aspects. So they'll be both supporting you and supporting me thinking about this, but will ideally really be supporting us to make sure we're keeping our focus on that external voice and that we're doing that with young people too.
Great. And what does accountability look like to you as well in terms of you as a CEO and being challenged? What are those real things that you want to be challenged on?
Yeah, so I think challenge is really important to me. And I think it's all about, we ask young people to challenge themselves every single day when we're asking them to explore things that are difficult. And so as a CEO, I want us to be challenged all of the time. I want to make sure that decisions we're making are always in the best interest of young people. So a chair, in order to challenge, needs to be engaged. They need to be informed. They also need to be thinking more wider, because sometimes we get stuck in our own little hole of kind of what's going on over here.
Definitely, yeah.
And we're so passionate about therapeutic work, about impact, but actually we could be really missing other things. And so we want a chair to bring in that perspective, but to bring in an informed perspective, knowing what Khulisa stands for and what we're about, but feeling confident to challenge that and really seeing challenge as a positive and constructive thing. I also think there's something here that we're really looking for with a chair around support and advice, and kind of being someone who's able to be critical, but who's also able to be really supportive of what's going on and what we're trying to achieve. Talk about challenge.
Yes.
Obviously, you have been on the Kalisa board for 3 years now, and you are our deputy chair as well. Can you maybe, I think sharing a bit more about the board would be useful in terms of the dynamics, in terms of the leadership of the board, and what you think is important?
Yeah, well, I think that a lot of people, when they're on boards, they can sort of think about the bare minimum, go into meetings, to sort of reading papers. I think one of the great things about our board is there's not really anyone on the committee who really views things in that way. The people who are really prepared to throw themselves into a lot of things that we do. They're people who have attended sessions in schools and really got a sense of the work that we do. And I also think there's a real strength in the real variability in the different skill set that's in the board. People with an HR sort of focus, people who have had their own experiences of actually sort of delivering and being a practitioner themselves. So I think there's a real broad skill set. I think that we're really in a great position for someone to come in and really help create a sort of a stronger energy and kind of collaboration within the board to support the organisation sort of going forward. So for me, I'd really, really excited about someone who sees the ambition of the organisation and sees the different ways that the different committees and people within the board can help push that forward, and is really committed to, I suppose, cohesion and bringing the board together.
I love cohesion because I think, as you said, there's so many different skill sets in the board, and I think that everyone provides such support and has such strength and knowledge in what they're sharing, and I think it's about bringing that together. And that's, for me, is the role of a chair as well, having that cohesive element, having that collaborative element, both internally with the board but also then externally for the organisation. Yeah,
definitely. And you talked about accountability and challenging, and that isn't just the job of a chair. It's something that all trustees should be doing. I mean, we have different committees, HR sort of focus, financial experience, more sort of people and culture, and I think that they really need to be holding yourself and the management to account. And I think it's important for a chair to come in and ensure that there is that culture within the board. So it's a lot for a chair to do, but it's a lot of opportunities, a lot of really great things going forward. So.
Yeah, and I think it's an opportunity to see an organisation that I feel like is about to embark on a really exciting period. And I don't just say exciting because it's an adjective I love. I say it because we truly are about to start this 3-year strategy. It's an amazing time to join us, to hopefully really be part and really feel the impact that they're having in that role and the impact that it's having on us as an organisation as we develop. So I think it does take a lot, it will take a lot, but I hope that there'll be a lot back as well.